What's going on, guys? This is the Red Rogue, and I hope you're all doing well today. Patch 9.15 is finally here, and I've decided to start gearing up some alts and messing around with meme and non-meta stuff because that's basically all I use alts for, hence why I never get around to playing them much because I'm always off pushing keys and making videos and stuff like that. So other than my Feral Druid, I finally got around to leveling my Windwalker Monk up so I can have even more agi melee DPS to play around with, and at this point my Rogue is pretty comfortably geared, so I thought it'd be fun to fiddle around on the side with other stuff. I can imagine the shock and horror of everybody thinking that I've given up on Rogue or something, but that is 100% not the case. As for alts, I really do just play basically all the agi melee DPS specs almost exclusively, and wanted a couple of them geared up for the Mage Tower and just to try some different things when I'm not doing other stuff. So yeah, on to the point of this video, Windwalker Monk. The disgustingly high AoE damage, spin to win meme spec of the patch. While basically every guide writer, theory crafter, and generally most people who have even looked at Windwalker will know that you only play Necrolord or Kyrian, I decided since this is an alt, I wanted to pick something really not meta and off the walls meme, and I went Venthyr. Anyone who plays Windwalker Monk knows how completely not good Venthyr is for Windwalker right now, but they've been doing a lot of changes on the 9.15 PTR about how the Venthyr Covenant ability works, and I think it sounds kinda cool, and since it's an alt I can screw around with stuff like weird choices because I don't really care. Venthyr monks get the Fallen Order Covenant ability, which spawns bunches of red shadowy clone adepts to do stuff for you. It's a pretty lengthy 3-minute cooldown and will spawn Tiger, Ox, and Crane adepts. For Windwalker, it will spawn primarily Tiger adepts, which can auto-attack, use Tiger Palm, and Fists of Fury. Your Crane adepts cast Soothing Mists, which is a pretty small heal over time, but free healing is good healing, I guess. And your Ox adepts will cast Keg Smash, which deals a bit of AoE damage, and that's about it. Now, all of this overall sounds pretty cool, and you get tons of extra red shadowy clones of you, which is honestly just really snazzy looking, especially when Storm, Earth, and Fire is up and you have like 80 billion monks doing stuff. With patch 9.15 though, even more has been added to this move. For instance, your Tiger Adept will now also occasionally cast Spinning Crane Kick when there's at least 2 targets to hit, and your Fallen Order monks will all apply Mystic Touch to enemies that they hit. Even better, the enemies that your Tiger Adepts hit with Tiger Palm will also add to your Mark of the Crane stacks, which means you should be getting even more stacks faster for big spinny boy memes. There's even more goodies that have been added to this, like free absorb shields and whatever, but these are the big damage-oriented changes that we'll be looking into. However, there's a reason Venthyr Windwalker Monk has been unpopular, and now there are a lot of quirks and issues and tuning problems and frankly, some things that I'd consider bugs going on with his ability too. Now, as a rogue main, I may gripe a little bit every now and then about Windwalker Monks doing a metric buttload of AoE damage right now. But I can't really fault the people who are playing and enjoying Windwalker Monk for that, and seeing as I wanted a meme, off-meta kind of Covenant alt, these are some things that should probably be addressed as they're frankly causing this Covenant ability to not be nearly as good as it potentially could. And if Blizzard really is going to put stuff in the game, it should at the very least work correctly. Otherwise, you can't really know how over or undertuned something is, because if it's only that way because of buggy spaghetti Blizzard code, or if it's just broken in a bad or good way, just because of bad tuning. So please keep in mind this is me just plinking away at some target dummies and whatnot on my ult on the 9.15 PTR, so some things may change by the time this video is up. For the sake of argument and testing, I've intentionally picked a soulbind tree that has no conduits in it to show the base value of the damage of my character and of the Fallen Order monks, since monks have conduits that do things like increase the effectiveness of your Mark of the Crane, and the Venthyr specific conduit buffs how much damage your Fallen Order monks do directly. This test character is also pretty unimpressively geared, and has no domination sockets, is like 213 item level, only has like 50 renown, etc. I'm explaining all this to give you folks full context on what I'm looking at and trying to figure out why there is such a discrepancy in one particular ability's damage. Spinning Crane Kick. Now, every rogue and, well, non-monk ever loves to hate Spinning Crane Kick. It can proc some huge damage if you hit full crane stacks and you get a GG proc with a crit sprinkled in there for good measure. It's really easily spammable, and in 9.15 it was on-target capped. It makes up an astounding amount of AoE damage for Windwalker, and of course your Storm, Earth, and Fire clones can also do tons of damage with it. However, Fallen Order monks do a lot lower amount of damage per hit than your own hits and of your Storm, Earth, and Fire monks. This is intentional and by design, as every move they do does about 33% of the damage that your character's base hit would be expected to do on average, and if you don't have any conduits buffing things. Just looking at things between the Fallen Order monks and your own Fists of Fury, you can see the average hit of the ability when cast is usually in the 1250-ish damage versus their 410-ish damage. You can also see the same is true with just plain old auto attack damage, with my average usually around like 450 and theirs around 150. So again, right at that 33%, third of the damage ideal kind of thing. Again, this is without any damage modifier conduits or soulbind traits or anything like imbued reflections or on-use trinket procs or anything. The Fallen Order Tiger Palm attack got a buff of literally 200% during the 915 PTR, because its damage was so low that even with this 200% damage thing, it got brought up to that average of being about 33% the damage of what my own Tiger Palms deal. And then there's Spinning Crane Kick. Literally, the Fallen Order Monk version of this ability can barely break 40 damage on average per hit, whereas my average, even on this pretty undergeared monk and intentionally not even getting Mark of the Crane stacks or Chi-Ji procs, is like 390 to 400-ish on average. This is consistently about 11% of the damage that my character does using the ability every time I've tried this on any target dummy, meaning there is something very wrong with this newly added ability to the Fallen Order monks. Seeing as they had to buff Tiger Palm by 200% just to get it up to matching the other attacks and abilities regarding that 33% base damage difference, I'm not terribly surprised they botched this, and it would need to be brought up by that same like 200% that Tiger Palm was brought up by during the PTR. Again, this is without conduits buffing the Fallen Monks and without Chi-Ji procs or any extra Crane stacks, which, by the way, the Fallen Order Monks don't use any of that. They don't benefit from Chi-Ji or Mark of the Crane. So for instance, if I even attempt to do half of my rotation that I still don't know correctly, I can get my average Spinning Crane Kick non-critical hits to over 1,000 damage a pop, whereas my lowly, limp-legged Tiger Adepts are still struggling to stay in double digits. Heck, my highest non-critical hits are reaching over 2,000 damage already, and this is at like 213 item level without calculated strides or any conduits active. I'm pretty sure they don't intend for Fallen Monks to benefit from Chi-Ji procs or Crane stacks, as that would be kind of insane, but I mean, 45 damage per tick is laughably wimpy and is probably a detriment to being Venthyr Windwalker, even more than it already is right now if it means that the new 915 version is casting less Fists of Fury to fit in more Spinning Crane Kicks, because Spinning Crane Kick is by far the lowest damage source and Fist of Fury is by far their highest. But wait, there's more. So, you know how I mentioned your Fallen Monk broskies would help you get Mark of the Crane stacks when they do Tiger Palm and stuff? Well, apparently they only want to hit the target that you're targeting, so making them actually help you give Crane stacks means you have to tab through targets and start beating them up, which kinda defeats the purpose of them helping you get stacks by attacking things if they aren't going to attack different targets. Again, pretty annoying since already the Storm, Earth, and Fire clones will help you get Crane stacks if you're using moves that apply Mark of the Crane, since they just copy you and unless you tell them to fixate, they will hit different targets pretty often. On a side note, the healing of the Fallen Order Crane Monks when you're a Windwalker is pretty not good. Like, over the entire cooldown, I'm healed like maybe 6,000 to 7,000 healing total, which is really not that amazing, and it's basically like me hitting Expel Harm 3 times, which is something I'm going to be doing anyways for free chi. Not exactly a big deal, but yeah, it's kind of a wimpy little healing buff. And while there isn't anything wrong with it, I do want to say the Sinister Teaching Covenant Legendary is pretty snazzy, and was basically the whole reason I thought Venthyr Windwalker would be kinda fun. Basically, every time your ability's critically hit with Fallen Order active, you shave 5 seconds off of its cooldown. It also gives you 1 extra Tiger Adept Monk for the whole 24-second duration of the ability, so even more Fists of Furies and super underwhelming Spinning Crane Kicks that aren't buffed by anything at all and hit weaker than Subtlety does outside of Shadow Dance. Yay. Seriously, kind of annoying how little damage that move does right now. Oh, and this move counts every hit of Spinning Crane Kick and Fists of Fury towards that potential cooldown reduction that I mentioned earlier. And it doesn't seem to be like, oh, if you crit 5 times on a single Fist of Fury hit that you get 25 seconds off. It's only once every time it ticks, so at most you can get 5 seconds every tick, which is still really good. So yeah, pretty nice and kind of fun to get a cooldown down shaved to like a minute, minute and a half, down from 3 minutes, which is nice. Again, while I'm not happy with the current state of balancing and the absurdity of AoE damage that Windwalkers can do compared to any rogue spec basically, or really any spec basically, Blizzard really needs to make sure that things work correctly before putting them in the game, regardless of who it affects or what it is. These are the little things that I noticed almost within like 15 minutes of putting my monk on the PTR 2 weeks ago, and since I test a lot of different things on the PTR, I also report a lot of things. Maybe they'll fix it now that it'll be live and people will notice, but since Venthyr is a completely, frankly terrible off-meta pick for Windwalker, and I'm the oddball that wanted to be Venthyr because I could and I don't really care about meta stuff, I'm sure very few people will even know this is an issue and hence won't be touched since it affects so few people. Anyways folks, I hope you enjoyed this slightly different video of my alt adventures, as I'm hoping with 915 out now that I'll actually be able to more regularly play my alts and not have it feel like a hassle or a chore just to keep 1 or 2 of them moderately caught up. I don't expect them to be all 250 like my rogue is right now, but yeah, if I can keep them just, 235, 240-ish by the end of the patch, that'd be nice and not have to break my brain to do it. I do have a Rogue Mythic Plus video in the works, so don't worry, I'm not just jumping ship because Blizzard can't balance things and won't touch Outlaw Rogue, because I've been a rogue through some of the worst patches over the last, 15 years of this game, and it's not a class I'd ever give up. If you enjoyed the video though, feel free to leave a comment below about your thoughts on alt stuff in general, or maybe Windwalker Venthyr stuff if you're crazy like me, and if you're feeling frisky, maybe throw a like on the video too. They're all greatly appreciated, and I always try to make time to answer any comments you folks leave. And as always, my appreciation and gratitude to all of my viewers, and especially my patrons, who all help make these Shiba Shenanigans possible. Thank you all so much for watching. This is the Red Rogue, and I'll see you guys around.